Okay, thank you all for being here. The Billionaire Networker, he wrote #1 international best-selling book called Big Game Hunting, networking with billionaires, executive, and celebrities. And he convinced billionaire Elon Musk for an exclusive sit-down interview where Elon exclaimed, wow, we really know a lot. So this is Christopher Kai. He's a Fortune 100 global speaker and has shared the stage with President Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and 1,000 other global leaders. He's the founder of Gifter X Talks, the world's leading speaker community for entrepreneurs, and the founder of GPS, a private global membership and online speaker training program where Forbes said helps entrepreneurs become professional speakers. So here's with us, Christopher Kai.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for that.
Give some shout outs to Carmen, Lubna, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name, Heather, Cindy, Rod, actually part of my team, Letitia, Shelly, Jessica. So thank you all for coming. Hopefully what you learned today will really help you build your brand so it is a global brand, because I meet a lot of people who want to do a lot of good in the world, but frankly speaking, you can have the best story, the best content, the best heart, but if you don't have a global brand, who will know you and who will ultimately be inspired by you? So again, I wish I could say that people don't judge a book by its cover. We live in the internet world where people all judge ourselves by what they see. So I really encourage you that this is going to be a very frank and direct talk. I'm a New Yorker, so my clients love me because I'm very straightforward. And that means that I hope that you take this to heart, meaning I'm here to serve you and to support you in your dreams of being not just a great coach, but to create a global brand so you can inspire more people, make more money, you can provide for your family, and ultimately it all comes down to your brand. So instant credibility is what I'm going to be talking about today, and you get that by creating a global brand, and specifically as a speaker. So you're all coaches, or at least if you're part of this International Coaching Federation, I'm assuming you're a coach, but even if you're not, I think Claudia and some of your colleagues mentioned that it's open to all people that are interested in a coach. But bear in mind that if you do not have a global brand, it'll be very, 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 very hard for you to have an actual sustainable business. And let's look at this very specifically. If you look at a company like Ferrari, it's a physical product. We all know of the brand. We all know the name. So as soon as you Google Ferrari, or even if you don't Google Ferrari, you know it's a physical brand. If you're a coach, you are the product. Your message is the product. Your story is the product. Whatever you are coaching on is the product. So it's not like Ferrari or Louis Vuitton or Ritz-Carlton, where it's a physical brand. You yourself are the brand, which means that you have to be Googleable. And every client you work with or doesn't work with you will Google you, and you'll either be invisible, visible, or an expert. And again, Ferrari is perceived as the expert brand, the Ferrari brand, the luxury brand, where they can charge $500,000, $1 million for a car. But when someone Googles you, what will they see? Will you be even visible? And if you're visible, will you be perceived as an expert? Because all that plays into how sustainable your business will be. And whenever I meet coaches, especially before they come into my GPS speaker training program, I'm very frank with them and saying you have the best intentions, you have great heart. But if you do not create yourself as a global brand, it'll be very hard. And let me specifically, I always tell this to my team and to all my clients that this is the Google search of me. If you don't know me, it's okay. But when you Google me, you'll see images of me with a speaking reel, which is essentially the most basic thing you need as a speaker, which essentially is your resume. To the right, you'll see me at a TEDx talk. Right below the TEDx talk on the right to the left of me, that's actually where I'm speaking in Zurich, Switzerland. And the main picture you see, Eagles Talent, is actually a speaking bureau I'm on. And my website pops up, the first one. And then if you look more, it says Eagle Talent. Eagle Talent is one of my speaking bureaus that I'm on. I'm on over 11 in 6 countries, but they're essentially a fancy word for speakers. And so I'm billed at $20,000. Now, again, that's based on a 10-second Google search of who I am. And ultimately, whether someone hires me or not, it's not going to be based on my credibility. It'll be based on whether they like me or not, whether they like this hair or not. Either way, the credibility is there. If they dive deeper, they'll see that I've written a few books, this one being a #1 bestseller. I've been featured on Forbes. And ultimately, instant credibility is unquestionable. So all of you out there, if you're looking at this current slideshow, say, well, I don't want to be on a big stage, Christopher. I don't even want to speak. I'm actually afraid of public speaking. But if you say you're a coach, and if you've been on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, whatever platform you choose to use, if you have one person outside of the United States, you can already technically say you're an international speaker. Now, why does that matter? Again, going back to the Ferrari analogy and the Google search analogy, if you are just a coach, there are many coaches, but if you're a speaker, it elevates your brand. If you're a national speaker, it elevates it even more. But if you're an international speaker, all international speakers make minimum $5,000 to $10,000, minimum. You tell me, are you making that an hour as a coach? If you are, great job. But I don't know any coaches that bill out at $5,000 or $10,000 unless they're more of a established brand like a Tony Robbins or Russell Brunson, where they charge 5 figures minimum for a 1-hour coaching session. But they often lead with the authority, the expert, the speaker, and then they say they're a coach. If you lead only as a coach or business owner, you're already diminishing your value. And again, it's just a simple framing, but I don't know many coaches that are the global brand. I mean, one of the rare, I guess, exceptions is a Marshall Goldsmith. But again, he's a thought leader first, an expert first, an authority first, the CEO first. So all of you, when you really start thinking about my message today, I really hope you consider that it's not what you present to your audience that they're going to want to hear. They're going to want to first know that you're an expert first, an authority first. And then if you say you're a coach, great. But you ideally want to throw in the fact that you're an international speaker, because again, if you've spoken on any platform, which all of us have, which even on this call right now, if anyone's from outside the US, and if you happen to speak on this current call, or you happen to speak at ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, no one is going to question you or your credibility if you say you're an international speaker. But I highly encourage you, if there's one thing you take away from this whole presentation, is start labeling yourself as an international speaker, because if you don't, you'll be like every other coach out there. I'm not saying that the ICF is not reputable, which it is. I'm not saying that doesn't build your credibility, which it does. What I'm saying is if you put international speaker and certified coach, it'll just elevate your brand, your expertise and authority, because when you do that, you'll be able to have more credibility. So I'm curious, put in the chat box who you are. Are you currently in a day job? Are you already a business owner? Or are you a hybrid of you have a day job, but you also have a side hustle as a coach? I'm just curious. I just want to cater my presentation to the people on the presentation. So just type in the chat box, 1, 2, or 3. Are you currently at a day job? Do you have a own business? Or you're a hybrid of both, where you have a day job, but you want to do a side hustle. So type in the comments, 1, 2, or 3. We got 2s and 3s, 2s and 3s. Okay, great. So it seems like most, if not all of you are either a business owner or hybrid, which is great. So congratulations for taking the leap. A lot of people say they want to be a coach. A lot of people say they want to be a business owner, but they don't do it. So I commend, applaud, and pat you on the back for doing it. And this is important because, again, remember the time that you did not have the courage. Remember the time that you were thinking about having your own business. You're thinking of being a coach, but you are. So these are very, very important anchoring affirmations that you have to pat yourself on the back for doing what you said you're going to do and helping people. Because there's all these into the authority where when you start conveying yourself as an authority, especially as a speaker, it bleeds into everything you say. So just, I appreciate you and I applaud you for what you're doing. Let me dive into some of the things of yourself. Wildest dreams. This is a hodgepodge, a cornucopia of things. So it's really defining what you want, whether you want financial freedom, more time with your friends, but get as granular as possible. So when people ask me, Christopher, what's your dream? Well, I'm already living my dreams. I'm traveling where I want, working with whomever I want, making good money. I'm already financially free. Now my dream, my goal, my mission, my purpose is solely to help my clients live their dreams. And most of it comes down to defining their expertise, marketing their expertise, and understanding how to sell their expertise as a speaker. And that is my single most important goal right now because it's just fun for me. As a speaker, you will make more money in less time, impact more people with less effort, travel for free, have instant credibility as we're talking about today, and have access to billionaires or millionaires influencers. I am so blessed to have just flown back from Hong Kong last week, and I'll be flying to Amazon later this month in Seattle. But before that, I'll be in Frankfurt for a global conference as a speaker. But all this comes down to being a speaker. being a thought leader, being an expert. And for all of you who are in this world of coaching, I know that it might seem like you're an imposter sometimes, but as long as you are an expert in your specific lane of competency, and let me explain that. I have a client named Lynn. She has one Airbnb property. Now you might think it's ridiculous that she says that she's an expert, but she is a coach. And I said, Lynn, how many people out there that don't have any Airbnb properties? And so as long as you help people that have no Airbnb properties, then you have the credibility to coach them. It's easy for her to judge herself and compare herself with other people that are more experienced, but as long as you know more than the person that's hiring you, then you can be a coach and an expert in that specific field. So she can be an expert in helping people find her first property, because I'm sure she spent many times, many years, many months, whatever it might have been, but it's about defining what she's good at and knowing that someone will pay her for that. Because if you wait to get 5 years experience, 10 years experience, 20 years experience, you're waiting forever. I don't know if you feel as I did when I went into the coaching world, quote unquote. I saw these supposed experts and they didn't really seem like they knew what they're doing. But if they just said specifically, hey, I help people in this category during this period of time, then I believe them. But if they start over kind of emphasizing what they've done, it just doesn't seem very true. It just made me not really believe them. Another example is Jesse, who's a client of mine as well. He's a realtor, and Jesse wanted to create a coaching program. And so I said, Jesse, what are some things you've done that other realtors might want to do? And he said, well, at one point I made $250,000 in 3 months. I'm like, okay, great. You might not always make $250,000 in 3 months, but during that time you did. So he ended up creating a coaching program to teach realtors how to make $250,000 within 3 months. What I'm saying is you pick the things that you've done that someone else might want to do, and therefore you can coach on that. Now, again, some of you are already coaches. You have to elevate the brand. By elevating the brand, if you start working more with 6-figure people, 7-figure people, 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure, immediately you become a coach to all, to coach to some. And so you become this aspirational brand. I'll get more into detail about this aspirational brand, but the point is, whatever you're doing, you have to start anchoring in the mind of your clients, who you work with, what you do, and who you do it for, but it has to be very, very specific. So in my case, I've helped my clients generate over $200 million. I've helped billionaires, I've helped billionaire foundations, I've helped 6-figure clients, I've helped 5-figure clients, I've helped 7, 8, 9-figure clients. So I already know, and I've worked with Amazon, eBay, Google. So I'm anchoring all these big names to let all of you know, if you have not worked with these brands yet, if you have not worked with these individuals yet, well, maybe I'm an aspirational brand that you might want to work with. And that, again, goes back to the credibility of anchoring these words, these numbers into the minds of your clients so they see that you're a credible person. So I'll dive a little bit more into that credibility factor, but I show this specific slide because I have clients that might want to write a book, might want to create a podcast, but the simplest thing to do is just start speaking, even if it's as simple as doing a 1-minute talk on any platform. I just see a lot of excuses that are said. Oh, I'm afraid to make, I mean, we all have fears, but it's about your purpose to serve. It's about the people that are starving for your story. It's about all the people that are going to be inspired by your story. So get over yourself. And I mean that very frankly, because I have really bad acne. I have really oily skin. So I remember early on, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be online. People are going to see my acne. I'm like, I don't like that, but like, whatever. It's like, if your message is a clear one, it's a pure one, it's of service, they're not going to care about the exterior experience. They're going to care about your message. So I hope that gives you some motivation to really get out there, even if it's for 1 minute. And I don't believe this, I'm afraid of public speaking, because maybe you're afraid if you're in a physical stage, but just like right now, I'm in front of 10 people virtually. I don't know where any of you all are, but we're all virtual. So there's really no excuse now where if you can talk to literally a camera on a phone or a laptop, where it's even more awkward, frankly, because I'm essentially by myself right now in my home office, okay? So there's no excuses anymore where I'm saying, oh, I'm afraid of public speaking. Like, public speaking now is both online and offline, okay? So just, I really encourage you to get out there and share your story, because what happens is you start getting in the zone of speaking your truth, and you'll be surprised and shocked at how many more clients you'll get as a coach if you just start speaking more. And it could be that 1-minute start. So Warren Buffett, one of my favorite entrepreneurs and investors in the world, has said this, and he actually lied. So I'm going to call it Uncle Warren, where Warren Buffett is turning 92 years old, actually 93 years old this August. So when he said this, it's going to last you 50, 60 years. He started his public speaking journey. He took a class at age 20. So Warren lied. It didn't last 50 or 60 years. It's going to last him 73 years. So what investment can you make in your time that will last you 50, 60, or 70 years? When you master public speaking, when you get better at public speaking, when you know that public speaking isn't just about sharing words, it's about the power of persuasion, then you realize that it's so much easier to find clients, to inspire the world, to really share your truth when you hone your public speaking skills. And I'll tell you, when I first started public speaking in high school, I was shaking. I was trembling. I had a stomach ache. I would pace back and forth. Now, years and years later, I am a master at it, but it took time. But in the world of social media, no one is stopping you from just doing a 1-minute post every day. And you're better off doing that once or twice a week. And within a month, you'll be close to 10. Within a year, you'll have over 50 practices public speaking. So I really encourage you, don't wait until you are better at anything. If you're all coaches now, you should be doing it every single day and getting better and better and better, because even something as simple as, are you actually centered in your screen? Do you have a commanding tone of voice? Or you stop using uhs and ums? You have some level of energy in your voice as opposed to, hi everyone, I'm gonna teach you about public. It's boring, okay? We live in a world where your competition isn't the other coach. Your competition is Amazon Prime, is Hulu, is Netflix, is YouTube, is Apple. All those things are your competition because they're all taking the time from your clients and you. So be mindful that if you don't create a level of energy, enthusiasm, or intention in your tone of voice, in your packaging, in your stories, in your service, why would they want to help or be with you? Okay, so keep in mind that public speaking is a phenomenal tool for you to really exercise your ability to serve people as a coach. And Warren Buffett is one of the most phenomenal people. Now, people think that speaking might be easy, but there's so many things involved. On the left-hand side, it's the basics. In the middle, it's the formula and the foundation of a keynote speech. On the right-hand side is what I find 99% of people that I work with, or when I begin working with, have very, very little understanding, because oftentimes when I see these quote unquote coaching programs, at least for speaking, they focus so much on the speaking that they don't really focus too much on the sales and branding, because it's much easier to focus on how to communicate your story than to teach them how to get paid to communicate their story. And the paid part is what I focus on, because I'm a business guy. And I know that if you cannot persuade someone to pay you, then you really aren't a great speaker or a great coach, because it's about just about energy exchange. So the right-hand side is what I stress a lot, because it really comes down to the personal stories, which I'm going to dive into in a very short time. And we all have to be media trained. We all in a world, and we should be thankful that I'm in my 40s. So anytime I talk to people that are younger than 30, I say you should be so grateful that you have all these free marketing platforms that years ago you had to pay a lot of money. So anyone that is over 40 should be so grateful, and you can be afraid or scared. It can be overwhelming, but again, just pick one platform. I don't care if it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Just do something to start promoting yourself physically online so they can hear, but more importantly, feel that you care for them. Because once you start sharing your image, sharing your personality, they'll be much more inclined. I mean, I literally had a client that paid me 5 figures recently, private client, who was watching my videos for years. And he said, Christopher, I've been watching your videos, and I've decided to pull the trigger on investing in my coaching and speaking program. Okay, cool. I'm just saying, a lot of people are watching. You might not know it, but start building up that video log, because that'll help you. So these are just the elements of speaking that I hope you are mindful of. Obviously, I can't get into every single detail. I want to make sure I have time for Q&A. And this is about the credibility, right? This is some examples of myself and of other people. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I didn't go to a PhD, but some of the other things, it did take me 2 years to get featured in Forbes. It did take me 8 years, or actually 20 plus years to build a business. It took me 8 years to write a book. But if you're a speaker, again, I say 1 minute, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. It's still getting there on social media and just speaking your truth. As long as you know someone from outside your current country, if you're in the US or you're outside the United States, you're considered an international speaker. Again, who is going to call you out on that? If they're going to say, hey, Karma, you're not an international speaker, you're not an international speaker, Claudia. I mean, again, maybe they could, but it's kind of rude for them to do that, but it's factually true. Because again, if you don't do this, your brand won't be as elevated, it won't be as instant, and therefore you're not going to get paid what you want, and you're not going to get the stages you want to be on, and you're not going to get the client credibility that you're going to be on. So it's the quickest and best way. So I'm going to dive into some of the macro understanding of speaking, because as a speaker, it's the best way to build instant credibility. You may realize or may not realize it's a $1.4 trillion opportunity. Now, I just mentioned to you, I spoke at eBay, I spoke at Amazon. Next month, or actually this month already, I'm going to be in Frankfurt for a global conference for the event industry. It's a $500 billion industry just for the events. Okay, if you look at on the left-hand side, you have conferences, seminars, it's 500 plus billion that's going to be projected in the next few years. Corporations have a lot of money. They spend more money on corporate things than they do on sports and entertainment. When you think about all the entertainment things you've heard of, was the Oscars or the Olympics, all that stuff, it does not compare to corporations because they have the most money. Who do you think sponsors those sporting events? Who do you think sponsors those entertainment events? It's corporations. The e-learning space, which all of you should really, really dive into, it's an $840 billion industry. And lastly, the personal development space with the Tony Robbins, the Russell Brunsons, the Brendan Burchard, the Gary V's of the world, it's a $67 billion space. So you're adding up $1.4 trillion of opportunity where you maybe know about that, but I want you to encourage you to really have a much bigger perspective on your career. I don't know where you are, but when I realized that this is how much money there is, the pie is so massive, I'm going to do this. And now that I'm doing it, I'm going to help other people. And there's 3 ways to be a speaker. You either do the corporate route. This is one of my clients, Sterling. I helped him clear his first $1 million. He builds it at 5 figures for one speech. That's very specific. That's very corporate. That's speaking real. That's a very specific topic. Then you have areas where you speak on someone else's stage. Like right now, I'm speaking on someone else's stage. They've already built the audience. So you leverage their audience to offer your potential products or services. Last, you create your own stages. Shelly is a client I helped make 6 figures from just 2 events with 10 people in the room. And again, it comes down to what expertise does she have, which is in networking. And my expertise was helping her frame, brand, and sell a story in a way that allows her clients to pay what she believes she's worth if she understands how to frame her story in a high level, expert authority way so that they see that this is amazing value. Now, type in the comments, type Russell in the comments if you've heard of this guy, Russell Brunson. Before I got into the coaching world, I frankly thought all these coaches were scammers because it just all seems so easy. But when I dove deeper and deeper into it, it starts making sense. So no one knows who Russell Brunson is. That's shocking to me. So Russell Brunson made $100 million within 3 years. He created a SaaS platform called ClickFunnels, which I use. It's essentially a back-end software where if you're a coach, you can create a membership site, you can have a landing page, you can have a funnel, you can have a way to pay people or someone to pay you, but you don't need to believe me. If you go to YouTube, he gives his speech in front of 10,000 people at a Grant Cardone event. He, let's say, closes 1,000 people out of 10,000 people, which is 10% conversion, which is not high. I think he charges $3,000. So that's $3 million within 90 minutes. And then he has another video where he posts how he did it. This is more what they call speak to sell world. This is what Dale Carnegie has been doing. This is what Les Brown, this is what Tony Robbins, again, love or hate these people, they'll have a model, a business model that has worked for the last 80 years, almost 100 years. And mind you, I'm pretty sure they learn from pastors because pastors do the same thing, meaning they have to build rapport. They'll say, hey, go to the person to the left of you and give them a high five. Tell them God loves you. In these guys' case, they say, look to the person to your left and say, let's be rich. You know, what they're doing is they're building engagement. By the end of that, they'll upsell them, give you a program. What I'm saying is when you start learning the personal development space, and it really does shock me that no one knows who Russell Brunson is except for Rod, who's part of my team. The quickest I've made money from a lot of different fields, whether consulting work, whether real estate, whether stocks, whether songwriting and publishing, but the self-help space is the highest impact, highest income, the least amount of time, because it's adding value first and then upselling them your programs later. Upsell, everyone knows of. You go on to UberX, or actually you sign up for UberX and they want to upsell you to Uber Lux or Uber Black. You buy an economy ticket on American Airlines, they want to upsell you to first class or business class. They all do it. At least the smart business people do it. So are you doing that? You have a low price point ticket or a free offer, and then you upsell them to other different programs. I do that all the time. I'm going to do that here, not in a overly hard salesy work, because I don't believe in that. But again, if I'm offering my time and I charge $20,000 an hour, well, I'm going to say, hey, if you want to learn more, please stay in touch with us, right? But it's a really great, tactful, and professional way to do that. So keep in mind, look at this guy, Russell Brunson, on YouTube, and it blew my mind. He's one of the top guys. He's like the current day version of Tony Robbins, but he seems more genuine. I mean, I like Tony as well, but the point being is, if you're not doing the speak to sell model, which is speak for free or speak for a low price point and then sell a product, you're missing out on millions of dollars, and more importantly, millions of impact for people. Now, whether we talk about in person or online, again, maybe you don't want to be at a 12,000 person event, which I spoke at. Just be on this Zoom call. I'm just saying, when I meet people that get squeamish and feel like an imposter, it often is their mind. They think, well, can't get on stage. Well, don't get on stage then. I have clients that only want to be virtual, which is fine. But again, there's no more excuses. It's your own mindset. And if you are a coach, do you not have to break through your mindsets of inability, of failure, of vulnerability? So I want to just be really, really clear that I just always hear these excuses from people, and it's just in their mind. So can you speak in front of 5 people? Because if not, you're never going to impact the people you want or have that freedom that many of people I hear say. And I want to be really clear. It didn't dawn on me until I realized this the hurtful and painful way. It took me 8 years to write my first book. I wrote my book. I had a website, crickets, because I didn't have a brand. I didn't know that the brand was more important than even my message, because your brand determines your price points. And even though I mentioned the numbers on the left-hand side, you can easily change that to 10,000 people that you've inspired, or 100,000 people you've inspired, or 1 million people you've inspired. So some of the people that on this call maybe don't make a lot of money. Well, you want to make a big difference? Because guess what? The people that make the most money have the ability to make the most difference as well. So it goes hand in hand. So I didn't realize that your brand determines your price points. So once you build a bigger brand, i.e. as a speaker, and in this case, a local person, I don't see people making more than $5,000, whether you're a coach or a speaker. Once you're national and global, it's always going to go higher, both your income, your impact, your confidence. It's just amazing, because what happens is, if you don't do this, you'll always struggle to find clients, find investors, unpredictable leads, clients from hell. You're picking people that you have to work with, or maybe don't want to work with, low confidence, many doubts. But when you're perceived experts, your clients come to you. You essentially don't have to worry about all these things that other people have to worry about. And again, I'm not saying that you have to speak all the time, like every single week, but even if you speak once a quarter, you can say you're an international speaker, and just getting a picture of that, of you speaking on a big stage, whether it's at your church, a chamber of commerce, it doesn't really matter. From an optics standpoint, it's about anchoring in your clients' minds that you are this international speaker. Of course, over time, you want to start speaking more ideally, because if you say you want to coach and inspire people, you just elevate your game. And so I don't want to say it doesn't really matter. It does matter, but in the beginning stages, I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, you don't have to be a speaker full time, but I still encourage you to do it occasionally, because your clients come to you, as opposed to you trying to chase clients. As I said to you, this is what I bill at it for an hour, and I could not have imagined that anyone can get paid for that. But if someone's going to get paid, I'm going to get paid for that, and you're going to get paid for that. This is one of my business partners. His name is Paul Getter. He's helped Tai Lopez. Type in the comments if someone knows who Tai Lopez. Type Tai Lopez in the comments, even though he is. Some people think he's a scammer. Some people don't. But again, I challenge all of you to look at them more as, can you learn about their marketing? Because if Tai Lopez or Grant Cardone or Brendan Bouchard, they're brilliant at online marketing, and you are a coach and you want to market online, then it behooves you to really learn from him, especially for those of you who you might not like. Because I actually, frankly, said to you earlier on, I was very turned off by them in the beginning. And then I started dissecting exactly what they're doing. And I started dissecting, oh, wow, it actually does work. And then I just did it my way. So instead of like stuffing all this stuff in their face about what I do, I just do it more casually, more as a matter of factly, more conversationally, as opposed to just giving all this pressure in terms of whatnot that they're going to get. But Paul and I, we did an event. I think it made like 6 figures for the first event we did. And now we're building out our first event. We're going to do a 7-figure and then eventually 8 figures. But the way we do it, again, low price point, maybe we charge $100 or $500 for a ticket. And then at the end of it, we'll charge a 5 or 6 figure type package. But that's the best way that if you're going to be a coach to scale your business, it's really to do your own events where you know you can share your value, but then you upsell them a larger package. Because again, this is about credibility. How much more credibility will you build, not just in a 20-minute conversation or an hour conversation or a 1-minute Instagram, but in a whole day of your value of your content? What I do for my clients is really help them frame the content, sequence the content, structure the content in a way that they know, okay, this is great. Because again, money is just an exchange. You can't expect people to pay you if you don't structure it in a way for them to know that you have value, you have high value, you have credibility on a global scale. Therefore, you should be charging global prices, not local prices. And when you do have a global brand, you get to invite people like Elon Musk, who's one of the wealthiest people in the world, to a homeless youth program I started over 10 years ago at a homeless shelter. So though I do a lot of business stuff, this is the thing that I'm most proud of, because as an expert, you're able to invite people like Elon to a homeless youth program I created over 10 years ago, where we help mentor, coach homeless teenagers. We're so blessed to have impacted over thousands of homeless teenagers. You can stay in school, attend college, and on a more deeper level, on a more basic level, they're alive. Now, these are some examples of stories of people I've helped. And ultimately, we've talked about corporate, other stages and own. Now I'm going to dive into this actual system, and then we'll open up for questions. So the 3-story credibility system, I've also called it the 3-story sales system. It's the same thing, frankly, because the more credibility you have, the more sales you have, the more impact you have, the more income you have. And so the first one is really your personal story. A lot of people think, oh, I got to keep it professional. Well, if you keep it only professional, how are they going to know you? How are they going to relate to you? So you need your personal story so they can relate to you. You have to be a human being. Now, let's say Ronald's case, this guy's spent over $500,000 on coaching, and he's one of my clients. And unfortunately for him, he was this cute kid growing up, but then he was labeled as fat at age 9. And ultimately from age 9 to his mid-20s, he just felt very insecure, low self-esteem. And now on the right-hand side, this man has transacted over $100 million in real estate, helped his clients make millions of dollars, but there's evolution. That's his story. So it's his personal story of vulnerability, of struggles, of low points, but then high points of where he is now. That's also, and this is my story, where I had no money as a kid, no access, no connections. My mom was a former school teacher. My dad was a former case manager in New York City, where he used to work for the city. I was punished for talking too much in class. I had a reading disability, and I thought I was stupid. And if you look at the picture on the left-hand side, that's me. I was 4'10" in high school. And I hate looking at this picture because it reminds me and brings about a lot of negative memories as a kid, because kids are very cruel, especially guys. When I say that the guy in the middle towered over me, he's probably 5'10" and I'm 4'10", he really did. And when I was in freshman year, I went to this party where I asked this girl to dance, and she said yes. I was all happy. I was dancing with this girl, and all of a sudden this upperclassman guy walks up to me. He literally lifts me up in front of this girl, laughs in my face and says, "Are you trying to pick a second grader up?" And put me down. I look at her, I look at myself, I run off. It was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life, because here I was, just mustered the courage to ask this beautiful girl to dance with her, and this upperclassman guy chooses to bully me. And to this day, it's one of those most scarring moments, because I did nothing wrong. I was just a short kid. Right? I share this with you because never, ever, ever could I have imagined that a little kid that was punished, teased, and bullied one day share the stage with heads of states and presidents, write 7 books, and become a bestseller it just doesn't make sense, right? But when you share these stories, it becomes relatable. So make sure you share these personal stories. The more personal, the better, because it allows people to really relate to you as a person. Because otherwise, why should they want to trust you if you're not being trusting yourself by sharing these vulnerable stories? That's the first story you need to share. And the more details you share, the better. Second one is professional. They have to be an aspirational brand. I already shared briefly with Donald. He goes from this short, fat kid to now a more, he just looks like a very debonair man, very successful man. He just turned 30. And then myself, I go from this punished kid, teased kid, bully kid, not smart kid, to now apparently having knowledge to write books, apparently speaking all around the world and having someone like Elon Musk saying, you know a lot. So again, you have that aspirational brand. This is where I find a lot of coaches, if they want to have more 6 or 7 figure clients, we have to start working with more 6 and 7 figure clients. Now, if you don't know those clients yet, then do you know any 6 or 7 figure friends? If you do, just ask them point blank, hey, Christopher, I am an expert in mindset, or I'm an expert in real estate, or I'm an expert in mental health. Do you think I can give you a free coaching call? And the only thing I ask, Christopher, is perhaps you can give me a testimonial. Now I just went from having no testimonials from a 6 or 7 or 8 figure individual to now having many. Because in the early stages of your career, or even where you are now, you have to start anchoring in your client's mind that are you an aspirational brand? Because if you're not, if you just say you're helping analysts or professionals, that's very broad and basic. Just like I said, when you say you're a coach, even though International Coaching Federation is a reputable brand, it's international, but your clients may not know that. That's why when you start saying things like, let's say one of my clients, she was a therapist. I said, well, Don, have you worked with anyone from a big company? He's like, oh yeah, I have many professionals. One professional I work with works at Microsoft. Great. So from this point forward, you say, yeah, I work with many professionals. One works at Microsoft. Okay. So all those plays into your aspirational brand. If you don't do that, again, why would they want to pay you more money or aspire to be you? Martin's an example. He is an 8-figure earner and he's one of my clients, and it's an aspirational brand. So I've worked with 8-figure, 9-figure earners. And lastly, this is the most important thing, and I'll open up for questions. You have to share stories of your clients. The more stories, the better. And the reason why this is so important is that according to McKinsey, which is the Harvard of consultant firms, your consumer-driven marketing, i.e. client testimonials, make your sales success 31% more effective. Who does not want 31% more sales? If you're making 10 grand a month, do you not want to make 13 grand a month? If you're making 100 grand a year, do you not want to make $130,000? If you're making $1 million a year, do you not want to make $1.3 million, right? Seems like an oxymoron question, but this is one of the most important things that I see lacking in people that are in business. And again, if they're not in sales, if you don't study sales, if you don't study marketing, it's all science. Everything I told you in this entire presentation, it's not my opinion. It's based on science, strategy, research, and decades of experience. In Ashley's case, I helped her get her first TEDx talk. In Ellen's case, I helped her establish her networking understanding. She's now a 10-figure earner. In Myron's case, he wanted to speak for 10 years. Now in just a month, he booked 4 speeches. This is Donald. He cleared almost 40 grand from just 2 events. I'm just giving you example after example. Shelly, I mentioned to you earlier, made close to 100 grand from 2 events. But more importantly, she's doing what she loves. Elaine's an example of an 8-figure earner. But these are all examples, whether they're doctors, real estate, master networking, it doesn't matter. I'm giving you an example of various industries, because what your clients will be doing is, oh, that doesn't really relate to me, Christopher, but that doesn't relate to me. Well, you want to just put a variety of clients. So if you want to work with primarily women, make sure you have a lot of female clients. But if you want to work with men, women, different minorities, just put the people that are in your group. Otherwise, they need to feel that you can serve them. These are all examples of people that I've served. In Dragana's case, she literally didn't even want to do a Facebook Live. And so I literally sat next to her and she had 2,000 views on her first Facebook Live. Within 2 years, she was already clearing 6 figures and she was on a global stage. And it's so important. Again, consumer-driven marketing, 31% more successful. Notice how she says that it's one of her best investments. Not I'm saying it. I know I'm great. I believe I'm great, but I'm biased, as are you when you're pitching your programs or your coaching. Because why wouldn't you? Of course you're biased because it's you, right? But Have your clients tell you, Carmen, and you, Claudia, and you, Heather, and you, Cindy, how amazing you are, because it just looks better, sounds better, and it is better. Okay? This gentleman is a trucker. He's driven 2 million miles, and yet he wanted to break past his fears of public speaking and it transformed his life. And remember how I talked about the Google search? Here's Brooke, who we have services where we get them credibility, where they literally get page 1 credibility, which is so awesome that she's never really spoken much, and now she's on page 1 of ABC and Yahoo. Because at the end of the day, going back to what I first said, you don't want to spend 20 years on suffering what I did. You just want to accept, hopefully, that it really comes down to your credibility and your branding. And the best way to be a coach is to also be a speaker. And really, that is the best way to be a global brand. So I hope you learned a lot during this session. That's the end of my session. If you want to learn more, we have this 5 simple steps to get highly paid speaking gigs. You can email Rod, who's on my team, or you can add me on Instagram at GiftDirectX Talks. If you are in South Florida, I do have these monthly or bi-monthly event called GiftDirectX Talks. It's been called the TED Talks for Entrepreneurs. I actually invited Angela, one of your colleagues at ICF, as one of our panelists. So we invite panelists. You can apply to be a panelist. We also invite clients of ours, but please add me on IG, Instagram, GiftDirectX Talks, or email Rod. And in the headline, just put ICF Instant Credibility Free Stuff, where you're going to get this cheat sheet, which are 5 simple steps on how to get highly paid gigs. So I hope this was helpful to summarize the 3 credibility system, the 3-story system: personal story, so people can relate to you; professional stories, so they can aspire to be you. It's about numbers, it's about brand names, it's about things that they aspire to be. And lastly, client stories, 31% more success in sales if you show your clients stories. If you don't do that, it's like going to Yelp and seeing 2.5 reviews when it should be 4.7, 4.8, 5.0 reviews of how awesome you are. So I really hope that that was helpful. Feel free to ask questions you want. I'll type in the chat box. So just type in the chat box if you have any questions about this presentation. It's 4:45, so I guess we have about 10 minutes. Type in the chat box if you have any questions. Please do email Rod or add me on Instagram, GiftDirectX Talks. That's a weekly, a monthly or bi-monthly. Actually, it's either once a month or once every 2 months, because I travel so much. Eventually, I'll do it monthly, but now it's turning out to once every 2 months. But we'd love to invite you to meet you in person. So type in the chat box if you have any questions. If you are coaches, I mean, type in the chat box, type a 1 in the chat box if you are a full-time coach. Type 1 in the chat box, you're a full-time coach. I don't know if there's a delay because, okay, ICF. And again, you tell me, are you making the money you want? Are you getting the clients you deserve? Are your clients knocking on your door and you have a waiting list? Because if not, you should be. So anyone have any questions about this credibility? Type in the comments, who is a speaker? Just type in speaker if you've given 1 speech in the last year. Okay, so Cindy, what is your topic of expertise? So no one has any questions. That is shocking to me.
I speak on imposter syndrome, leadership, and the future of work.
Okay, say that one more time. Imposter syndrome,
leadership, and the future of work.
Okay. So those are very broad topics, but yeah. But does anyone have any questions?
I think my question really ties to, I get everything you're saying and it resonates here, but in terms of networking, how does that fit into your brand creation? And, you go from very high, I'm trying to start really low, right? How do you use your network?
No, you don't want to start very low. That's the thing. You want to start with a higher mindset. This is why I wrote a book about billionaires, because you have to just still convey, I'm a leading authority in whatever you're doing. Like let's say I have a client, she was 20 years old at the time. What can she really teach us? Well, frankly, a lot, because in her case, she helped me find clients on social media. But in her case, she spoke to a few audiences, which when you added up the numbers, it was a few hundred people. So she can just already say, oh, I've spoken to a few hundred professionals or 200 professionals or 100 professionals, right? Just adding up those numbers, you'll be shocked, Carmen, when I ask you, how many user experience have you had doing what you're doing?
Over 23 years.
And you just told me you want to be on these global stages. You have 20 years experience.
Hmm?
But so that's a lot of credibility is what I'm saying. So you should just first know that having 20 years experience already conveys a level of authority. Therefore, I mean, the simplest way, frankly, is going to a 5-star hotel and just sitting around and spending $15 or $20 on a drink, which you may not want to spend. But if you want to meet more wealthy clients, you have to be where those wealthy people are. You have to feel comfortable because you don't want to like go to places. And if you want to meet more 6, 7, 8-figure clients, you have to go where they are, you know, and that's why it's important to just get comfortable with those things. And you know, if you email Rod, I'll send you my ebook.
Okay.
So Rod's email is on this thing. Well, it's just rod@mathengroup.com, or go to IG, get their X Talks. But the thing is, your brand is also determined by your, it's like this. I wrote this book on networking because I realized people didn't get into the right rooms. And then I realized once they're in the right rooms, they actually didn't know how to communicate. But then I realized if you don't have a brand, you can't get into the right rooms or communicate. So, so the branding, networking, and sales is all frankly the same thing. It's like the 1, 2, 3 punch, where the branding is the first thing that you start first. And what I realized is that even when I look at people's LinkedIn, they don't even say they're a CEO and founder of a company. You know, I have a client of mine before she started working with me. She had an old LinkedIn of 10 years ago, and it was just horrible. So all of you, if you want to start, just go on your LinkedIn today, and whatever you are, don't just say you're a coach. Say you're the CEO and founder of whatever company. So already that alone, you've already raised your brand to an expert level that already will fetch you more impact and income. Because if any of you are struggling to find clients, I'm guessing it's not your content. I'm guessing it's your brand. I'm guessing it's your network. I'm guessing it's your sales. I'm guessing you're not a speaker. Because if you were a speaker and have a brand, you would not have issues finding clients. Because I'm telling you this from the various clients that I've worked with, and I've worked with thousands of people. It's always the same 3 things. They're not perceived as an expert on a global scale. They don't know how to market themselves, and they don't have an understanding of sales. Because did you not find it helpful, Carmen, Claudia, Cindy, Heather? This is the only people I see on my screen right now. That when I say that client testimonials make you 31% more successful in sales, this is the thing. This is a free webinar, right? And it's like, you can give stuff for free, but the more premium stuff you pay for, and why shouldn't you, right? I mean, all of you have a coaching business, but I dissect and give actual scripts to my clients. They know exactly what to say, but ultimately you have to realize that who you are is who you are. But what people perceive you to be is marketing. Perception is marketing. And ultimately, how you market yourself is how you're perceived. So no matter, you can be the most greatest people in the world. Carmen, do you have in your bio that you've said that you have over 20 years of experience?
Yep.
All right, cool. And let's say I don't want to pick on Cindy, but since this is a webinar, you can say that you are imposter syndrome, leadership, and future of work. And there's nothing wrong with having different topics, mind you, right? But imposter syndrome, it's not like, it's like leadership for sure. Future of work, it's like a $10,000, $20,000 billable thing. Imposter syndrome is more of like a subtitle to a main topic. So even something as that, right? You have to be mindful that every word you put out there, every phrase, every photo, every video, all conveys value. So in Cindy's case, leadership for sure, high level, can be a global brand. Future of work for sure, it's a catchphrase. But as soon as she says imposter syndrome, then it's more of like, okay, you could teach that, but you would rather just lead with, I teach people how to be leaders. And one of the things they deal with is imposter syndrome. Then, okay, now that's more palatable. And again, it's a very slight nuance, but it's that you want people to perceive as an expert in certain categories. And based on those categories, you will teach these things. But if you throw too many things out there, I'm confused. You know, and again, no one's going to tell you that, by the way, right? Like I'm telling you this because this is a webinar, and I'm telling you this because this is about branding and credibility. And when I see too many people tell me they do all these different things, and they don't do anything, because if you're successful, you have a clear focus. And unless you have a whole team, that's one thing, but just be mindful. Credibility, it literally is instant. You see this picture that's blurred out, that's in front of 12,000 people across 4 days. No one's gonna doubt my credibility. I'm not saying that I'm the best, most amazing person. I'm just saying what I learned quickly in my career as a speaker was that it doesn't matter how amazing I was. It really came down to how credible I was perceived in the public. And even though I'm an introvert and a private individual, when I chose to be a speaker, I'm going to be in the public. And if you look at my YouTube, I started in 2015. That's when I went as a keynote speaker full time. I've been doing this for 23 years. But in 2015, I chose to do it full time, all the time for keynote speaking. And that's when I started YouTube, because I just said, you cannot be a public figure if you're hiding behind wherever you're hiding behind. But credibility in the day and age we are living now, if you're not posting videos, if you're not posting photos of yourself next to a celebrity, next to authority, as cheesy, as pretentious, as whatever you want to fill in the blank as possible, even that as psychology, it's success by association. What do you think celebrity is doing? They're posting celebrities. So this all anchors in your client's mind who you're associating with. If you're associating with no names, if you're associating with people that are your friends, that's all fine personally. But I'm here to teach you instant credibility. If you see, let's say Carmen, what field are you in, Carmen?
Career coaching.
So who's the top career coach in the world?
Well, right now I'm focusing on Simon,
Simon Sinek?
Yes, and Adam Grant and those
Okay,
individuals,
they're
but they're not
great.
career, but they're around that. But
Yeah.
I don't have anyone right now other than generic figures.
No, but that's fine, because Adam Grant and Simon Sinek, they're both bona fide, legit world authorities. So even
Yeah.
just referencing their names, like Simon Sinek says, your why is the most important thing in your career. I teach you the why. So even like that,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, and all of you, it's just about being very strategic and creative, because if you don't start incorporating those people, and again, this is where it's like, if you have a chance to meet Simon Sinek, even if you have to pay for it, or Adam Grant, all those plays into your credibility. And again, for those of you who are a little more on the shy side, it's like I don't know if I want to. If you want to be a coach and inspire the world, you have to realize that you have to hook their attention in first. And people a little bit get a little defensive when I say that, because it gets personal. But I'm telling you from my own experience. I wish I can tell you it doesn't have to take a long time, and it doesn't have to take a long time if you actually take my advice. And if you Google Simon Sinek, you Google Adam Grant, the probability, because they're successful, but they're not like celebrities. I mean, like you can probably get an event, because I know Simon bills out I think $100,000 for a keynote, but I'm sure there's public forums where if he was promoting a book and you got a picture with them, like all that plays into your credibility as an authority, because you're learning from them. And that goes for anyone on this call, by the way. If you can't even pick your authority in your field, you got to do more work on your field and your understanding of branding and marketing, because there's a reason why those are all authorities. And why is it there's mostly men, by the way, right?
Thank you so much for your time. I'm so sorry, but we need to end the webinar at this moment, because we have another session beginning in 4 minutes. But thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Christopher, for your knowledge, your expertise. We've learned a lot today in this 50 minutes. So thank you, everyone.